dance. Let's learn more about it, and we'll be right back with Bob Banner. Hello, everyone. Maribel from SLO TV, and next to me I have Bob Banner, who is the founder of Hope Dance. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
Okay, so Bob, could you please just tell me a little bit about yourself?
Oh, that's okay. This is going to be in front of me. Well, Hope Dance started around 1996 when I first got here, and that's a story into itself. But I've always been involved in publishing magazines. And so when I came to this area, I didn't want to do what I was doing before, which was trying to really build a famous global publication, you know, with all these really cool names. So I decided that I would just stay kind of local and also and do a newspaper and do it free instead of charging subscriptions like I had been doing before. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then when I'm washing windows to make a living, I had these 4 words come into my mind going, radical solutions, inspiring hope. So I went, that's pretty cool. But I really didn't know specifically because I really wasn't involved in it that much. I was mostly involved in conspiracies, global theories, and all that kind of stuff, a lot of heavy politics. Anyhow, so then I met some people, and they were into permaculture and sustainability and voluntary simplicity, and I was into Buddhism, so there was a strong voluntary simplicity tangent to Buddhism because it's living simply instead of what the consumer culture is trying to promote more and more, buy, and then we were destroying the earth as well, so I thought I needed to do something about that. So I had a group of new friends come over my house, and I said, I don't know what to name this. So I had learned from Ginsberg. What's his first name? Allen Ginsberg. That sometimes he comes up with these poetic expressions where he takes a whole list of nouns, a whole list of verbs, and then creates all these permutations. So I did that with these people. And somehow hope and dance there was the best one. Dance hope didn't fit. All these different ones just didn't fit. So anyways, that name kind of stayed. And actually, people think that it's a dance magazine, or they think it has to do with Hopies, so there was a lot of confusion in the beginning, and still is. But to me, it's a dance between hope and despair. And that was my personal thing, because dealing with conspiracy theories all the time and just the incredible weight of this world, and of course they call this the Kali Yuga, which is a really the Dark Ages. And I was reading some really heavy people. So now all of a sudden I'm seeing these positive people who are doing permaculture and living differently and challenging the status quo, but not in a protest type of way, but just how do we live and how do we change our consciousness and how do we feel our way through these changes. So the issues, I did an issue on food, I did an issue on, this is funny, probably the most popular issue was the affordable, sustainable housing issue. And it sounds like an oxymoron because you've got affordable housing, which is usually built with toxic materials, and the sustainable housing is usually very, very good building supplies, but they're very, very expensive. So you just have really wealthy people being able to afford these kinds of homes. So I said, I want to do this anyway because I like those polarities, like where's the middle ground? Who is doing affordable, sustainable housing building structures? So I went online, and they were all from Australia and New Zealand. Wow. But I still wanted to do it. And there was nothing around here at all to combine the two. So I did it, and it was probably my most successful issue, even though there's nothing here that's happening. Now there is. You've got the Green Building Alliance. You've got a number of architects who are doing some very, very cool work. We're the first county, the highest county in the state of California that has the highest per capita of straw bales to people. And that's because of Ken Haggard and Polly Cooper that are over there at the Cal Poly. So anyway, I started to get to meet all these people, and the publication just kept growing to peak oil. We did like 2 or 3 issues on peak oil because it just was a burning issue. Like, how, if this is part of climate change, how are we going to change our lives? How are we going to live differently? We can't keep on going this way. So then, of course, local food. Well, what about our food? It's being transported 1,500 miles to our dinner tables. That's the average. So that's when I started showing films, because how do you educate? I was really into, creating the magazine as one outlet, but then a lot of people don't read, or they don't really get ignited because of an article. So what about films that actually show people doing these positive things, showing straw bale construction, showing local gardens, showing permaculture, showing water catchment systems, all these really, really cool things that people are doing, and then finding people in the local area and saying, can you come and speak after these films? I'll give you a column in the paper. At one time I had like 12 columnists,
Wow.
From mothers to the sustainability people, the permaculture people, natural investments. I don't know if you know social responsible investment, SRI. It's a way where you can take your portfolio and say, I don't want it to go into coal or gas or nuclear. I don't want it to go to Coke. I want it to go into businesses that are doing good for the earth. And so if my interest isn't all that huge, I still am making a statement saying I don't want to invest in tobacco. I don't want to invest in certain things that you don't want to do. So that's a whole movement. There's so many little tiny movements, but that's why I felt like the publication needed to explore them all, so people, if they had an interest in something, or if they complained. That was the key issue too. I did not want to complain anymore, because complaining just drives you down. It makes you debilitated. And actually, I would love to tell this story. Here I am in Shell Beach. This is before the magazine started. And I'm reading a publication out of New York that was called Open Center, called Lapis Magazine. Anyway, it had these really positive, solutionary articles. And they were riveting. I got so excited that physically my body, it's like I just wanted to leap up on my garage, which is where I was living at the time, and just say, look, the world is beautiful. It's not so devastating. It's not so despicable, because that's how I was doing my media, is bringing in all this bad news and the conspiracies and all that stuff. So I said, I got to do something. This was like the beginnings of Hope Dance, is when I just remembered it now. That insight, that visceral, enthusiastic, I needed to do something. I needed to change. And what's interesting, this ties in too. Here I don't even have a TV, right? But something happened to the house or the garage where I had to go to a hotel. And they were paying it. So I went to the hotel, and I turned on the TV. And it just so happens that Phil Donahue is interviewing all these media people as to why they think the 11 o'clock news with all the violence, blah, blah, blah. And so you had all these guys with shirt and ties and all that stuff. And there was this one guy who just wore cowboy boots, had an open shirt, and he said that he wanted to take a respite from mainstream media by a few months. There's a word for it when you take a sabbatical. So he was going to do it for 3 to 6 months. He was gone for 3 years. He said what he really wanted to discover, is it the media that's creating this, or is the world really all this violent? So he discovered that the media is responsible, is reporting only on some of these things that are so violent or bad. He discovered that there were all these really cool stories And this is before I started the magazine, so I'm watching him, and I'm even getting doubly excited because here's this guy who already did it. It was called Good News Gazette or some lame title like that. And Phil Donahue was asking, where are you getting all of your material? He's from UPI and APS, or AP and UPI. The same places where all these other media outlets are getting the stories, but they may be in the back section of the newspaper. So he put it all together so that people could be inundated with that kind of information, because that affects your psyche. It's almost like a media diet. You eat shitty food and you're gonna feel shitty. If you eat really, really good, nutritious, something happens to your body.
You have energy.
Yeah. So I think the same thing happens to our mind. When we are inundated with negative news, we get negative. We get congested. We get constipated. And if all of a sudden you find out that somebody in a different country has just created this whatever, and all of a sudden you're going, wow, and it's almost like a hope or a positivity gene is being being triggered, and all of a sudden you smile or you get happy or you get, oh my God, there's really cool things happening. So where is it happening in my neighborhood or mine, all that kind of stuff. So that's why a number of us went up to Portland. I wanted to do a special issue on neighborhoods and how people were actually creating new kinds of positivities just in their neighborhoods. So City Repair in Portland was outrageous. They were taking their their neighborhood intersections, right? Well, they were painting them. They were in the strips around the people's property, which is called public. It's public space. So they took over the public space with little solar tea places. They made like little areas where kids could play and color and make things. They would have a cob bench where people could sit on and just hang out.
Yeah.
It was almost like the beginnings of village life instead of the isolation that so many of us feel in our neighborhoods. So this was the beginning. So 4 of us went up there with our bicycles. We stayed at some of these cool places and reported on it's called Village Building Convergence. It was probably their 8th annual one, where they invite people from all over the world to help build cob benches or various things. Now they have like 40 different city intersections in Portland that are these mini villages that people have potlucks, there's dancing, there's music, they take over the intersection, so people have to drive around. Anyway, it's pretty radical. But like I said before, it's these edges that I'm drawn to, because I think in those edges are where the germs of solutions are emanating from.
What is Hope Dance?
I would say that the specific mission is to find the edges and to find the outrageous people who have committed themselves to really working at making changes, because we are going through huge shift. So my intention is to find those individuals, outrageous as they are, regardless of their spiritual traditions, and what are they doing and what are they bringing toward this mix of this shift. Who are they? The permaculture people, a lot of the sustainability people, the foodies. They're all over the place and they're cropping up, and we need a media to focus attention on them. Yes Magazine is a perfect example of really showing what is positive out there about peace relationships, anti-war, what kind of activism is effective these days. So there's so many things going on, and and somehow I like having this awareness of who are they. I'm a person who can there's some people who see a bigger picture, and then there's people who are really fine-tuning things. So I happen to have one of those minds that just can grasp and grok a lot of the things that are going on throughout the globe. So that's what I like to do. And the paper, stopped because just, the internet was just going crazy. So why keep on printing a newspaper, in my opinion? So I just stopped that, and it's all online. And I want to give an example of this new media, just like you guys are in this new media. Somebody works at a magazine, and they're spending 2 months, for example, or a month, working on, 10 or 12 articles. And the thing is, today, with Facebook, and when I see an article coming from God knows where, Russia or Czechoslovakia or Bolivia, that I see is really, really cool, I can push a button. It goes to hopedance.org on Facebook, and I can do 12 of those in 10 minutes. And before, it was taking 2 months to type it all in, right, to try to get advertisers, and that's and you can see a lot of papers are struggling. Huffington Post is an example of what can happen. And so she sold it to Amazon, but she still has power over her content. So a model like that is success, and people are scrambling. New York Times, they're all having a transition, going from one media to another media.
Now with Hope Dance, where can we find you?
Well, I have a website called hopedance.org, and that's got a whole bunch of categories, whether it's awakening or building or transportation or money. So a lot of articles end up there. We have a calendar of events, just not our events, but other people's events that kind of fit into this whole realm of, outrageousness and really important parts to this puzzle of how is this shift happening? I mean, it's happening already, but might as well tap into it. But then I've got tons of Facebook pages that I've created because of particular issues. For example, we showed a film on green burials, which is legal in probably only 3-5 cities throughout the country. It's where you can bury people without cremation or without being in a big, expensive $15,000, $20,000 box, which is ridiculous anyways because the body still is going to decay. So people are now getting permission to put themselves in a wooden box or even a cardboard box. So anyways, there was this really cool film, and a number of people came. So I said, well, I'm going to start a Facebook page so that it can stay energized, so we can connect with each other and talk to each other and find out who's got property. So I've done that with a number of things. I've done that with geoengineering. I've done that with films. If you go to Hope Dance Films on Facebook, that's where a lot of the trailers are. I'm asking people, do you want to see this, or who wants to see this? So it helps me actually categorize all the stuff that I do, so that I can go, where did I post that? Well, I'll go to Hope Dance Films, and then I can see it because they have searches. Facebook is, granted, there's a lot of negative stuff about Facebook, but for a media person and how we can create events and invite friends, it's incredible. I mean, within an hour, sometimes some event goes out and already they have like 300 people saying yes, that they're coming. And it's no paper, no killing a tree. It's all electronic. Anyway, so as you can see, the technology is fascinating for me. Just like what you're doing here. I mean, before you had to have a big ABC, CBS kind of production company to be able to produce something like this. And now you can go online with my face, your face, and we can create a different kind of media, which is fantastic.
So, Bob, where can we find you through website, social media, and stuff like that?
Okay. It's hopedance.org. You can email me info@hopedance.org. You can call me at 805-762-4848. You can Skype me at Hope Dance. You can, at Facebook, it's either hopedance.org or it's Bob Banner or Hope Dance Films or Chemtrail Info of SLO County. I've got a whole bunch of them.
Okay, thank you, Bob, for having us. It was a pleasure to have you. So, outro, SLO TV. Check us out at www.slotv.net, and the show is produced by Miranda Marketing Labs at mirandamarketinglabs.com.